Hello, and welcome to another Savvy Chat. My name is Julie Brown. I'm a certified financial planner and financial strategist with McKinley Carter Wealth Services in our Dayton, Ohio office. On behalf of McKinley Carter, I also lead the Savvy, a society of women pursuing their ideal life. We hope these Savvy Chats, both recorded and in person, provide some new ideas for you as you pursue your ideal life. Today I'm joined by my very good friend, Phillippi. Ty is the Director of Wealth Management for us here at McKinley Carter, is also the Regional Director for our Ohio office, and regularly meets with clients as a financial strategist. I've had the privilege of working with him for many years and know him to be a devoted and wise advisor for both clients and us on the team, and I'm really glad that he's here to share some of that with you today. Thanks for joining us, Ty.
Thanks, Julie. Glad to be here.
Well, before we dive in, why don't you share a little bit about yourself with those that may not know you very well?
Okay. Well, I am married to Stephanie, my wife, for about 29 years now. Just a couple of weeks ago, had that 29th anniversary.
Wonderful.
Have 3 wonderful kids that are all grown and pursuing medical degrees and jobs in the health community. And we are now experiencing that empty nest kind of transition ourselves. I've been a CFP for 27 years, and also I have my Certified Financial Transitionist designation, which is really focusing in on those clients that have major life transitions that they're navigating. So I've been kind of contributing to the mastery level of that at the Financial Transitionist Institute.
And that transitionist expertise is why I thought you would be a really great resource for our audience on the topic that we want to discuss today. You may recall last fall we sent out a survey to all the ladies that we are currently working with as we were preparing to launch the Savvy and asked them, what are the topics you'd like to learn a little bit more about? And one that came back with lots of interest was the topic, life changes, money changes, now what? Which is not really a surprise to you and I. We know that that's one of the things people really need to feel secure. Something's different in my life and I don't know if I'm okay. And your background as a transitionist, I know, gives you a lot of insight into what's happening in people's lives when they're going through those changes. So I thought we could start just kind of exploring what are some of the changes that we see bring people to us. So changes that really have a big financial impact in people's lives.
Well, change is all around us. It's one of the major constants that we can count on. So I think one of the big ones that we hear a lot about is lottery winners, but that's not something we see a lot of.
Yeah.
But there are other kind of transitions that are also ones like taking lump sums from retirement plan, also insurance proceeds that get paid out. Then there's the divorce transition. Other types of settlements, loss of spouse, and then obviously inheritance is a really big one that we see a lot with our clients.
Yeah. Now those are all good examples of maybe more money coming into somebody's household, but we also know there's changes where more money is leaving. Expenses are higher than before. What are some of those?
Well, one near and dear to me, obviously, is the college. That big money going out.
Yeah.
But there's also others like supporting a spouse that's going through a long-term care kind of experience, where you have expenses not only in the long-term care facility but outside to run the normal household. And then one of the transitions that I didn't mention earlier was that of selling a business for our small business owners. They have not only big money coming in, but they have money going out in the way of capital gains tax and maybe even some of the expenses that they would normally deduct. Now they have to kind of pay those, not through the business anymore.
As you were listening through those examples and just thinking of clients we've worked with or imagining myself even, there's so many, ups and downs, a lot of emotions that are involved with these kinds of life changes. And it just makes me think about the conversation we've had many times about the human side of financial planning and just how most of our work is done with complex human beings, not spreadsheets, not cut and dry rules, but really people that have a lot of other impact to the decisions they're making. So maybe share a little bit about how you see that emotional side or the human side of making money decisions impacts people going through transition?
We identify that there are really two sides to money. That technical side that you were just kind of mentioning, it's the taxes, it's the cash flow, it's the estate planning, things that professionals are really good at getting and digging in and getting done. But the other side of money, that's the one that's kind of, just very interesting, and that's the personal side. It's the relationships, it's the emotions that drive everything. And in addition to that, it's the hopes and dreams that they had, or maybe aspiring to. And both of these sides of money, they're equally complex, but they're also equally important in the process. But for sure, that emotional side does a lot of the driving. And it's our desire as planners to work with our clients with different resources to ensure that we have that we can manage a path forward. And rather than letting a client get stuck in those transitions. And it's very interesting because we see a lot of clients that do get stuck, or they struggle with things like being narrowly focused or fractured focused, or even being confused about what they need to do, or being extremely overwhelmed. And sometimes we've even heard clients mention that they're in a fog.
I think that's a really relatable description, that mental fog. And I think everything you've just described, that emotional side really tells us how messy a transition can be. We've talked before just about, you've used the example of trying to hold a bowl of soup in your hands. There's just not a real easy way to get your hands around a problem or a transition rather than a problem, to pursue it or to maneuver through it successfully. But I know that as a transitionist, your group has developed kind of some structure to help people maneuver through a change really well, some processes and some tools to help through each step of the process. Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. The process that we look at is about a 4 different phase process. It starts out with anticipation, and we know that something's coming down the road. It's inevitable. It's it's coming, and it's going to get here. Sometimes we're surprised by it, and that it's a good thing, and sometimes maybe not such a good thing. But we know that we need to prepare in this anticipation phase. And the other thing is we need to get the right people around us in order to navigate it successfully. And part of that is managing expectations, not only for the person going through, but the people that are surrounding you. Then ending comes into being. And ending is what was is no longer, and what is to be has not yet taken shape. It's kind of that check valve. You can't go backwards. It's all about moving forward at that point in time. We might like to go back, but we can't. And so, we're looking at really change management in that ending phase. And we would use some tools like, am I okay? Like looking at our current reality and finding out, what the new things are that we have to deal with. And really also looking at a proactive timeout to allow our clients that opportunity to have what we call a decision-free zone. And it gives them that ability to kind of look at all the stuff that needs to be done and then start to prioritize those things that need to be done now, soon, and then later.
Gosh, we sure have seen that in particular, that decision-free zone, give people so much freedom in that passage time frame, or in that ending time frame, preparing to go through the passage. Just the idea that I don't have to make a big decision right now. That I can pause. I can even tell people I'm not making decisions. I need a minute. Having that tool in your back pocket, really for any time of life, but particularly when you're going through a change, I think empowers a lot of people to feel more control when they're going through this big change in life.
Absolutely. And you mentioned passage.
Yeah.
That's the next phase.
Yeah.
So the passage is kind of an active transition that a client is going through. It's kind of them doing the dance, if you will. And it's how they're adapting to that change. And so I liken it to the dance floor a lot, because it really is one of those clear pictures that you can kind of illustrate where you know kind of where you need to go, but you don't know how to get there yet. There's a lot of fear, anxiety, chaos that kind of enters into the equation, and it's really an opportunity for us to take the client up to the balcony, look at the dance floor, and say, this is where we want to go. Get back down on the dance floor, and then there's, it's the 2 steps forward, 3 steps back concept sometimes, but ultimately we kind of make our way through it, and we get to that final stage, which is, it's that new normal.
The relief.
Yes, and so, that's where a client has kind of accepted the change, and now we are in kind of have this renewed energy. And they sometimes will talk about the transition in the past tense, and that's how you kind of know that they're moving into that new normal. So we would do some things with them, like what if scenarios and opportunities that they may see existing for themselves, or the potential for that, and then getting to a point where we can reflect back on the transition and kind of ask them the questions of, now that you navigated this, what might you do different? Not that we're judging, but giving them an opportunity to kind of self-realize some of the changes that they would make if they had to do it again.
And they will, and that's one of the things we've talked about, that we go through these transitions over and over in our lives, and it's almost, the reflection tool is like a way to make sure the next time is a little easier. Here's what went well, here's what I do differently, and the next time I'm presented with a change, I'll be better equipped to handle it.
Yeah.
I know we're just touching the tip of the iceberg here. Thank you so much for what you've brought to us today, and I know that there's so much more to this conversation, but at least we got started. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And for our audience, if this is a topic that's particularly interesting to you or somebody that you know, there's a few follow-up resources we wanted to make sure you were aware of. So alongside this video, we'll be releasing some graphics, some worksheets, some things that you could work through on your own. If you wanted to just take a few minutes to review those, better familiarize yourself with some of these concepts or exercises, just give yourself the ability to practice some of those exercises Ty mentioned. That would be a great follow-up step from today. Another option is attending one of our in-person Savvy Chats. Each of our region hosts these in person a few times a year, and in the next few months you'll see invitations go out where we'll discuss this topic a little deeper in person. Finally, if you'd like that one-on-one attention, reach out to one of our McKinley Carter advisors, all of whom are well-versed in helping folks go through transition in their lives. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hopefully this has been helpful for you as you pursue your ideal life.